Welcome to AI Snacks with Romy and Robbie, an AI literacy podcast translating AI and robotic technologies from difficult to easy to understand. I'm your host, Anastassia, CEO and founder of AI Edutainment, an AI literacy company based in Switzerland. And for those watching on YouTube, this is my British short hair and the real Romy. He is the protagonist of my Romy and Robbie flagship series for the full family. And yes, he's an AI influencer who brought over 15,000 followers to my Romy and Robbie Instagram channel. Today, I'm recording the second episode of Beyond Human with Dr. Matthias Röder. And by accident, this is the 50th episode of AI Snacks. Today, you will understand why I shy from using Gen AI tools in being creative. And we will discuss how Matthias built his own digital twin and what it implies. You will see best examples of human and machine collaboration and what kind of tools creators use to enhance their human excellence. But before I open the studio to Matthias, let me thank you, my listeners, for having written to me after the release of the first Beyond Human episode. One publisher from New York talked about the importance of supporting writers in the age of AI and robotics. Then there was one teenage boy, and he talked about how he stopped using ChatGPT in doing his homework, but he still relies on the Khan Academy platform. And this is an AI enhanced platform, but it is powered by excellent human educators. There were several people commenting quite philosophically about what human excellence meant to them when it came to the age of the nascent AI. So apparently the topic is important to so many people. I'm tremendously grateful. It's not easy to be a content maker in the age of AI and in the age of podcasting. I made all the mistakes possible. For example, last week I was recording an episode. My window was open because it was raining cats and dogs. I was not thinking about the lightning. And then out of sudden, the sun came out. It hit my face, so it was glowing white on screen, which of course will impact the quality of the video. But this is not the reason to stop. And I thank all of you for tuning in. Now let's open this studio to Dr. Röder. Hi, Matthias. Welcome back.
It's great to see you. Hi, Anastassia.
And let's immediately kick off our second Beyond Human episode. So this slogan, is AI replacing creative genius or expanding it? And what are the usual arguments here? Frankly, I was reading today through a couple of papers discussing how human cognitive capabilities decline due to the overuse of ChatGPT. And it dawned on me that this over-reliance on something or someone is not very different from what I experienced when I was still working in corporate Germany and in corporate America. So do you know, Matthias, what the acronym TEAM, so teamwork, team, means in German? So I will tell you, and then I will translate it to the English-speaking audience. So TEAM is toll, ein anderer macht. So toll is great, ein anderer, another one macht, is doing it. And this is quite a striking parallel to this world of the over-reliance on AI. When people believe they can outsource their thinking, their homework to a chatbot. And frankly, the holy grail is in synergy. And synergy might unlock new types of solutions, inventions, and even artistic expressions. And this is what I would love to discuss today. Could you share your thinking on human-to-machine collaboration before we go into the tools which we might use or not use when we try to cooperate with machines?
Yeah, well, I think you hit the hammer on the nail. The issue that I see is also that people are simply using the tools as a replacement brain, and that's not working. And real collaboration, also collaboration between humans and humans, is centered around challenging beliefs, assumptions, and expanding horizons and expanding capabilities, and also getting to the goal, in an efficient way. But it should always encapsulate this idea of challenging and expanding the horizon. And this is something that, when you look at the tools out there, they are not built to do that innately. They are built to do exactly what you said, to do team, to take away the cognitive workload from the user, because this is what, is easy, and therefore something that a lot of us, including myself, we crave this simplicity and being less overloaded, but it's not good for us ultimately, and we have to find ways to counter this.
Frankly, Matthias, I mentor top executives in certain situations in life. For example, if they encounter a very severe crisis in their professional life, like a hostile takeover or massive fraud. So, I always try to talk to them about this growth mindset. And this is quite a big concept in psychology and in leadership training. Or people are using this notion of grit, which is actually about marrying ambition and motivation with a very dedicated pursuit of something. Those 10,000 hours of quality training. And, I try to use generative AI tools when writing Romy and Robbie for illustrations. So I write my text and I can do watercolors, but I am not a very sophisticated painter. So I developed what my protagonist should look like. Obviously, the cat is very much the real Romy and my British short hair. And the robot was an imaginary creature. And I try to use DALI and so the illustrator on ChatGPT to help me. And the result was very flat. I was actually quite frustrated with it. So I completely abandoned the use of those mass market tools for what I do. And at some point in time, I will develop my own model and train it with the images. But I need first kind of a library, a small data set from my own work. So after probably the book number 3 or number 4, on October 1st, I started to write the book number 2. I will be capable to develop something customized. But I am aware that you created your own digital twin. And the person we both respect and actually adore, Sam Harris, who is doing a fabulous app for mental well-being and meditation, and who is a podcaster himself. He has his own digital tool, and he is very skeptical about our beneficial future with AIs. Can you talk a little bit about your own creation and the why and the how, and what could our listeners learn from your experience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for bringing up my little experiment with myself, so sort of. I I started to think about how I could use AI beyond the gimmicky level, right? which I also did. I did my fair share of that. I created, a digital avatar that looks like me and that speaks with my voice, and I posted videos with that to show how it's done. But I wanted to go beyond that. And one of the things that I'm constantly doing, like many of us, is to think about what is happening in the world, to write articles. I write a little column for the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung every now and then.
Which is, by the way, one of the major German newspapers. Congratulations, Matthias.
Thank you, and my blog and so on. And what I realized was that if I don't have extended periods of time to learn something new, then it is very difficult for me to come up with new ideas. And so I wanted to have a little repository of my own ideas and things that I worked on, so that I can use it creatively with my AI, not to reproduce my thinking or to mimic myself, but rather to use it so that the AI knows my state of thinking on certain topics and then can relate to that when I interact with it. We used to talk a lot about prompt engineering, and what I do very much now is context engineering. So I basically give all of that information as context to the AI when I explore a new topic, so that I get a little bit of help and challenging questions on what my assumptions are. And I ask the AI to help me to not repeat myself and to tell me when something is very much like what I used to say before. So it sounds very complicated. It's very simple, actually. I have a simple Google Drive where I have all the texts that I've written, that I've published, and I have a document or a file folder with all the texts that are currently in progress and things that I have abandoned, And I create 3 files from it. And I wrote a little tool to help me with that. Each and every file gets read by an LLM, gets tagged with keynotes, and then gets also summarized. And then I take all of these 3 elements, the keynotes, the summary, and the original text, and it gets written into a large markup file. It's just a plain text file, really. And then I have these 3 files, and I can upload them to your engine of choice and use it as context. It's very simple and straightforward, but it does amazing things in combination with the prompt library that I've developed for myself. And that's something that it's a little bit nerdy, and it takes a little time to prepare this and write the programs to do it. But after that, every time I publish something new, I simply update the files and I upload them again to Perplexity and ChatGPT and whatever. And there I have my personal Matthias AI that helps me with my work.
This is actually a fabulous example, and it could be of quite a great use for small businesses who are sometimes drowning in content and who need to multitask, and they don't have professional writers supporting them in marketing and whatsoever. And those businesses and entrepreneurs, they need to learn on a daily basis these days to stay relevant. Let's discuss best cases of collaboration between AIs and humans. And of course, your Beethoven X project was one of the best examples of this collaboration. We slightly touched upon this last time when we were recording the first episode of Beyond Human. I've just returned from the Architectural Biennale in Venice. It was an unbelievable experience, I must admit. So this year was one of the best in my eyes. And I was participating there because I was keynoting on the evolution of intelligence in living nature and in machines. And this year, the exhibition was curated by Carlo Ratti, and the title was Intelligence, so with S at the end, natural artificial collective. And it actually dawned on me that this collective intelligence is actually the path forward, because we can't solve all the problems just by looking into the treasures of humans. We must expand because there might be too many data points, too many fields which might be foreign to a certain creator. So we might expand our horizons, and we must use technology to learn from other living creatures and things on this planet. For example, I've never thought about the intelligence of stones. And quite a big part of this exhibition was dedicated to the microbial life on our planet. And stones are actually this element to translate this microbial intelligence into something more with plants and with living creatures. Then, of course, plant intelligence. So 90% of everything on this planet is about plant intelligence, and what it means for the planet, for the environment, for our living conditions. So there was quite an interesting Belgium pavilion, and in this Belgian pavilion, there was an installation of plants which were building a kind of a microclimate. And AI was used in creating this piece of art, which is, by the way, a living laboratory for 6 months of this exhibition. And the AI sensors were recording all kind of conditions, which might then give us insights on how to build a better environment for everyone. And it was really very impressive. Then there were pieces which did not have any AI utilization at all, though first, when I was kind of, immersed into them, I was thinking for sure AI was used. And for example, you might be interested in this. There was this installation, Oxyville, which was a 3D sound installation, 10 minutes of immersive sound experience, designed by Mid Digital Cultural Center and a couple of creators. And it was inspired by Luigi Russolo, The Art of Noises, and the work of Pierre Henry and Pierre Schaeffer. And it was an unbelievable experience, completely designed by humans, for humans. And then, on another hand, there were tons of examples where humans imagined the life in space and utilize AI for design of the new material, for collecting sensors and variables with the new materials, putting all together, and those spacesuits were destined for humans to survive in space and on other planets. But those spacesuits might be used in some circumstances on Earth when we go into oceans, or we are exploring volcanoes, so things like that. Then the Lunar Arc, an unbelievable installation utilizing AI and architecture. So tons of things which just gave me plenty of inspiration and frankly admiration for those creators using AI for something what human alone could not create. And I wonder, so in your eyes, how do you think about best cases between AI and humans beyond the Beethoven 10th? And how do you learn about these experiences? Where do you collect your information, and how do you get inspired?
Oh, wow, these are all very big questions. But if I may, I wanted to go back to this example of the intelligence of plants and stones. One question I didn't fully understand, like, what is the role of the stone in this exhibition in the Belgian pavilion?
So stones collect something, and some stones they were not present in Belgian pavilion, but in other spaces. So, for example, stone in collaboration with the microbiological organism can actually remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Right, or provide calcium and things like this.
Exactly. And this is quite a very sophisticated mechanisms in nature, which we are discovering today with help of AI and machine learning.
Yeah, I'm very interested in this because one of the books that I adore very much, one of the great thinkers of our time when it comes to computer science is Leslie Wayland. And he has written a book called Probably Approximately Correct, for which, this work, he won the Turing Award, which is like the Nobel Prize for mathematics. And in his book, he talks about not algorithms, but eco-rhythms. And the idea of that is that you can learn from your environment, that's where the word ecology comes from, right? The environment, you learn from your environment, you adapt to your environment. And this is a kind of learning that is inherent in biological systems, which is also our way of learning. He's modeling that for computer science. And so now a whole new branch of computer science is based on these eco-rhythms that come from nature. And I found that always very beautiful and in itself almost like a piece of art. And that's also answering the question of where my inspiration comes from. It typically comes from places where you wouldn't expect an artist to get inspiration or information from, but I go very much into scientific papers. I talk to people from very, very different industries or perspectives. Exactly. And this is when all of a sudden it makes click. I can't even tell why, but this kind of associative learning in a way, I found that always very interesting for my artistic work. The collaboration between AIs and humans, and this border. What I find extremely fascinating is that when we look at artificial neural networks that are trained with, say, the transformer architecture, we are basically creating almost like archives of information, archives of things that we can learn from the past, from data, from certain configurations. And these archives become a playground for our imagination. They become a playground for possibilities. And this I find very interesting. So if you create, to make it concrete, if you create a music model based on, let's say, the works of Mozart, and then you have the training data set, which is the actual works of Mozart, and the derived analytics from it, then you can traverse all of this data in a very creative way and take bits and pieces of it and put it in a new context and create something new out of that. And in a way, this interaction with the model becomes the artwork itself. And then the final version of it, the thing that you maybe present to the public, that you hang on the wall in the end, that is just like a memento of this whole interaction with this archive of knowledge. And this is what I find most interesting right now, because as long as I can remember, as an artist in music or in other fields, I was always trying to find my position in relation to what was there before. It could be a comment, it could be an opposition, it could be the idea to distance oneself from that. But it was always this finding your position. And this I think becomes now beautifully possible with these new tools. And that's what I love about them. And that's why I'm also very much arguing for an open approach to including artworks into the training data sets and not being sort of exclusionary and say like, oh, I don't want my work to be part of this, because it's a very exciting way to become a part of the ongoing engagement of artists with their past.
Yeah, I mean, it actually rings certain bells, Matthias. First, I would love to come to this modeling. And you said something very deep last time we were recording a podcast together. So you said in this Beethoven 10th, so the beauty was really on the edges of the model. And this is what I see quite a bit. And I mean, who needs a complete copy of even of something as magnificent as Mozart Fortis Symphony? I mean, Mozart Fortis is Mozart Fortis. It's a unique signature of this genius. And you were discussing these edges, and I was remembering when we had a conversation years ago when you were talking about how Beethoven was perceived by his contemporaries, and when they were accusing him of doing something which should not have existed. So, what is the relationship here, and how do you define those edges, and how do you spot them, frankly? Is it then your intuition? Is it the intuition of creator? And I believe to have this intuition, we need hours and hours of dedication, passion, and practice.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think when I talked about the edges of a network where interesting stuff happens, that's one way of saying the same thing when I say you try to find your position in relation to this archive, right? And obviously your position, if you're an artist, should not be in the center of it, where you're basically copying everything that was common, but rather you want to be on the edge somewhere where it's interesting for you. And this question of almost like a geometry of artistic output from a time period, I find this extremely interesting. And yeah, and I think when you look at the way that you learn a new craft, you start out by, in music, for instance, for hundreds of years, the traditional way to learn music was to learn from great examples. You study the way that others write music, and you analyze it on a macro level, on a micro level, and you emulate it. You have to copy it in the same style. This is what we musicians do. Like, here's a melody, write a 4-part chorale like in the style of Bach, or a sonata form like in the piano sonatas of Mozart. And then you have to understand how he's doing that, or how they were doing it. And you emulate. And then, of course, and you're in the center of this archive, of this little world. And then you have to find your own way. You have to find aspects of this and aspects of that, and you combine them, and maybe you find a new place within this whole archive. And that's when you become a unique artist. And so education is that path from the middle of the network to the edges, and creating your own nodes and pathways. And and this is what when you reflect about what's happening in all of this AI stuff, this is what I see when I think about it in a philosophical way. And there's practical applications of that. And as you rightfully say, like, you have to put in the hours. I mean, that's wasn't it like 10,000 hours you're supposed to be putting?
Whether it's 10,000, so it's not less than 10,000. So there was this famous study researching actually violin players, but it is completely applicable to any other field. When you were talking, I was thinking about pianists in the early 19th century. And, it was very common for the best pianists, and those were regarded as really the masters of the game, to write their own cadenza to a certain music piece. And there was, let's say, a piano concerto. And they were expressing themselves during the performance of this concerto. Quite often it was linked to the slow part of the piece, and they were experimenting, putting variations during the concerto, during the performance. And this genre of variation was quite common for musicians. And this is nothing less than the generative intelligence, but human intelligence, which we might today replicate or enhance with the help of machines. Maybe there is some parallel to it. But, I would like to highlight your experiment with the digital twin, because I think it's quite brilliant, and share something I saw in Venice. So there was this, I would call it now, project called Spatial Intelligence. And it was designed by a Berlin studio and someone called Nicholas Bildstein-Saar. And that was a digital twin for everyone attending Biennale. And this creation tracked visitor interactions, it analyzed movement and interests, it dynamically adapted text and navigation pathway throughout the exhibition. I've never seen such a sophisticated implementation of something like that. And it was a real agentic participant continuously learning about what this particular visitor wanted and reshaped the spatial experience around what this visitor was encountering there. And I think things like that, of course, you require great internet connection. You require tons of infrastructure to implement something like this. But something like that might become our companion looking forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds fascinating. So this system was really interactive with all of the visitors at the same time, or with one specific visitor at a time?
So I observe it only with one specific visitor because it could be done via an interface. How it worked in the background, I still need to study this, but I would love to actually approach the creators and invite them to this podcast to discuss it, because I found it was a very fascinating realization of agentic concept where I believe there is a real value to customize certain experience, especially for an individual. Yeah. And of course, there is probably a common denominator because you might be have a certain gender, you might walk certain number of steps a day, you might be more interested into, let's say, plants or more into the traditional architecture. So I guess there are certain types of behaviors to respond to. Yeah, and probably you need first to kind of cluster what type of behaviors are you responding to. But this is something to research and to ask, frankly.
Yeah, there is another thing that reminds me of this, and that is a project called Honcho. And I believe we're going to send out links afterwards to everyone or in the comments. Honcho is done by Plastic Labs. That's a New York-based company or artistic studio. I don't even know what they are. They are just fantastic. They bring out this amazing things like Honcho, which is uh, it's like a chatbot, but it is one where multiple personas talk to one another in the background when they interact with the user, and they are constantly building a theory of the psychology of the person that they are talking to. And with every bit of information that they get, they change the theory of mind, as it's called, so that the response of the automated system is more sophisticated and more human-like, and mimics the interaction between two people who get to know one another in the real world. And I find this so interesting because this idea of having a model of the person that you're talking to is also the thing that a lot of these AIs are currently missing. It's sort of they don't have a model of the world that we are in, like physical, biological, psychological, and so on. And so this world modeling capability creates AIs that are more responsive in a positive way, or in any kind of specific way, and can be very well used for these kinds of AIs that mimic characters like actors or musicians, but also I presume, like in this artwork that you saw, where it becomes a very almost intimate kind of interaction. And I love this stuff. That's really cool.
No, it's absolutely magnificent. But, and I would like to come to the last part of this podcast, because I really try to keep those AI snacks short and crispy. We require tons of infrastructure to implement AI and agentic AI. And I recorded recently an episode with someone who is a very skilled architect of data centers. So he really knows his stuff. So the energy, the water utilization, all kind of KPIs to watch when you build something like that. And when I was listening to Rishabh, this is his name, I was thinking about how much of this infrastructure we lack these days to truly implement an environment where we can coexist and collaborate with the machines. You now know my obsession with the alternative architectures, yeah, because current LLMs, GenAI, and current architectures, which are focused on deep learning, they aren't energy savvy. And there are all other vulnerabilities and issues with those. But if we kind of, stay in what we have today and we scale those vulnerable architectures, we end up with an environment in which, in my eyes, every building must become a data center on its own. We will need too much deployment of AI for all kinds of purposes. So this requires very sophisticated edge computing. So every single device is an AI device. It requires proliferation of 6G and further wireless networks. And this, again, requires fiber to every building. And I mean, we live in quite progressive countries, but in Austria or in Germany or even in Switzerland, we don't have the deployment of fiber to every home. And in some areas, internet is very, very, let's say, bad from the experience perspective. So how do you feel about this issue, the preconditions to deploy AI? And that everyone can use those tools to enhance creativity, to be better in his or her field.
I'm not an expert on any of these topics that you are an expert in and that you just talked about. I see certain signs in the literature and in the conversations that I'm reading and that I'm having. And one of the things that I'm very interested in is alternative architectures for learning. Also, without any deep learning, like constraint-based learning and things like this, which take much, much less energy to produce something meaningful. And then also hardware developments like photonic chips and things like this, which are much more efficient, or let's say we hope they will be much more efficient in the future than the traditional chips. And so a combination of these approaches, I think, can take us someplace. But of course, it's a real challenge. And from what I understand, this idea of Moore's law is no longer really existing. And so are we hitting a ceiling? I don't know. One of the things that I think becomes very important currently, a little bit not on that topic, but in general, is goal orientedness. I think that if we know what we want, or if we have a vision for something that we want, then we can use our resources accordingly. And that might be just a way to say, let's not waste the energy when we don't need it, but let's use all of the energy that we have for reaching these visions, these goals. It's also an interesting topic for combining LLMs with, or AIs with, graphs and this idea of, you have certain paths that you want to follow, and then you're not meandering around, but you're more goal oriented. This is kind of an answer I have for this, but as I say, I don't have the knowledge of hardware and running data centers. All I can see is that they are popping up everywhere.
Well, I mean, I absolutely love your answer, and this is what is completely clear. We need first to formulate questions before we throw some AIs or whatever resources on solving it. But what I hear as well, and this is my conviction, we need to really invest into AI literacy to facilitate societal dialogue, because and this dialogue, it's not descending from governments, it should be on a local level. So cities, communities should be discussing this. And this is actually what frustrates me tremendously when I look into, small elections, not on the federal, arena, but like communities electing someone. Those people never address AI. They never discuss the vision. How would AI coexist in an environment where we are running out of kids and adults due to the demographical crisis? How can we enhance education? What does it mean to have AI embedded into educational system? Should we be doing this? And if so, from what age? So I would love to open a broader societal dialogue. And for this, we are, of course, requiring some AI literacy to enable people to ask good questions.
But this is where you are trailblazing and where you are showing the way for many of us. And I can only hope that more and more people are understanding the importance and are teaching their kids about this issue. And then from there, it should permeate into the local communities. But you're absolutely right. Honestly, I have to say, to be honestly true, for me, I'm engaging more on sort of a virtual and global level with peers than that I go out in the community, reach out to those who maybe don't know that much about it yet, but I should be doing it. It's important.
And you are a real pioneer in applying AI in arts. And frankly, I am dreaming that one day you will write a book for kids on how to be excellent in music with help of AI, because you are a fantastic musicologist and very, very forward-thinking musicologist. Matthias, I can't thank you enough for this recording. I will see you in a couple of weeks to record episode 3 of Beyond Human. And to all our listeners, please DM us. We are very approachable. We always respond, even if it's not within 24 hours. In my case, sometimes it might take 72 hours. But we are very approachable. And if you have certain questions or doubts, we are more than keen to explore those during our podcasting time. Thank you. And I'm closing the studio now.
Thank you, Anastasia. Bye-bye.
And that concluded another episode of AI Snacks with Rom and Robbie, an AI literacy podcast. You can learn about AI and robotic on my website, www.aiedutainment.ai. The information is in the show notes. I blog twice a week about AI and robotic technologies, and I invite co-creators to publish their writing on my website. I'm tremendously grateful for every single post. So, what would you love to learn about in the age of AI and robotics? What are your preferences? Please DM my Insta channel or write me on LinkedIn or even comment under this very podcast episode. I thank you and I will see you next week.